All right. I think we are live. I've made sure to mute everything on my desktop because that was an unfortunate experience we witnessed last time. And this is just another Ask Me Anything live stream. Anything pertaining to tech, science, whatever I can get my hands on, I'll do my best to sift through it. I will confess that I fell asleep on the couch, if you can't tell. It's been a long day. But that did not hinder our ability to live stream tonight in this after hours number 18. I can't believe we've done 18 of these. So we do these once a week, and I know we had like 4 or 5 breaks in there because of holidays and stuff being on Sunday. It's really tough to get around like events with families and whatnot when you have breaks off from school and from work and what have you. So it's been kind of all over the place, but the 18th one here, I think we've done this for about 6 months now, so pretty impressed with how I've been able to kind of keep this going, and that's due in large part to you guys because you guys watch it. That's my motivation to want to keep doing this. I appreciate all of you who watch these on Sunday nights, Monday mornings, whatever time it happens to be where you live. I do appreciate the time you've taken out of your day or night to ask questions and just have intriguing conversations, arguments, whatever happens in the live stream. It's all up in the air, and that's what I like because I never know what kinds of questions I'm going to get. You guys just ask me whatever you feel like asking, and a lot of it I have to do research on, just after this because I don't know enough about some of the topics you guys ask about. But that's great because ideas for future videos. So thank you. Rory Feeney asks, would you recommend an ITX for a first build? Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't, the build premise doesn't change, right? You're just working typically with smaller components. ITX builds are a little more difficult because you usually have to mind cable management a bit more. Depending on the type of ITX case, you can get like an H200i, and that'll be a pretty big, beefy ITX case compared to Fractal Node 202 or some of the Silverstone cases out there. So yeah, it's going to depend. It's definitely going to vary depending on the type of case that you buy. But for the most part, you'll be fine with that, sure. Can you tell the RGB case that has around $150 red chicken bob? There are plenty of cases that are RGB that are much cheaper than $150. You just scroll through Newegg. Most cases are going to have some sort of RGB on them, unless otherwise noted. If they have RGB, they're going to say they have RGB, so that's a good way to sift through it. Jacob Bear asks, are you holding any cryptocurrency? Absolutely not. I don't touch cryptocurrency. I never have. I've never mined. I've never traded it. I don't do that stuff. I don't touch it. It's unregulated BS. I don't trust the market, frankly, at least in its current state. Maverick M, will you do Noctua reviews? I've already done a few. I think I've done the NHD 15. That's the one that always gets the the credit, right, for being like that really big beefy cooler that also stays really really quiet. And I actually have them sending over a couple of, actually more than a couple of sets for some cool themed builds we're going to be using in the studio. So we'll be using, I forget the model. There's so many different types of fans that they make. They're the ones that they're black, and they have the replacement little rubber corners, right? The little, I guess you can call them like little shock absorbers or whatever on the fans. So you can kind of customize the color accents on those fans. So I have them sending over like 4 packs of those. And not only because they're black and they're kind of interchangeable with the color scheme, but also because they're super quiet because they're Noctua fans. So yeah, they're not like the most quiet fans that they make, the industrial grade stuff, but they'll get the job done and they'll look pretty good doing it. Jordan, I don't know anything about rumors, GTX 11, whatever. I don't follow rumors. I don't dig through any of that crap because most of it's BS anyway. It's hard to kind of pinpoint the stuff that actually might be true because what people who share rumors try to do, and a lot of websites will do this, especially the ones that rely solely on or almost solely on rumors to gain traffic, is they'll try to make the rumor sound as believable as possible, and they'll do their best to explain what this would mean in the real world, blah, 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 but it's all just a hype game. It's trying to drive traffic, it's trying to be shareable, viral, right? And I'm not into that. I used to be more up to date about the rumors and stuff, but I don't follow that anymore. Okay, let's see. We have... Johnny asked, would you ever be friends with a console plebe? Why or why not? I actually have a console. That doesn't mean that I play it. I play like 2 games on that, and I don't play it as much as I usually play the PCs. I play like PUBG a ton on here. I played GTA 5, Black Ops 3, like some like older titles that I've just been like playing since they came out. But I I probably put maybe 2 or 3 hours a week on consoles. That's about it. I bought it for Lisa just because like it's more of like a, you know, you can sit on the couch together and play games, and you know it's more like personal, kind of like in-home type thing. Whereas PC gaming, it's very like user oriented, right? Like you're in your space, this is my space, my keyboard, my mouse, stay on your side of the desk, you know. So it's a different experience. This is more competitive, I would say. It's more intense, whereas console gaming is pretty lax, and at least for us. So that's why we have one, but. Yeah, I guess we're kind of console plebes too, in a way. We're both. We get the best and worst of both worlds. We have a question here from, let's see, what am I looking at? Fortnite or PUBG? The answer is PUBG, Ninja. I can't play Fortnite. It's too cartoony. It looks like I'm playing a video game on like a, I don't know. It doesn't scream modern to me. I just don't like that style game. I never have. Anything that's more modern looking, I will usually jump into fairly quick. Okay, we are scrolling down to, do you have the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy? No, and the only reason why I don't is because it just seems a little, I don't know. It looks fine to me, and the original Crash series was awesome. I'm just wondering like how much different it is, because I know it's just a remake, right, of the first 3 games. Like I could just play the original 3 games. Like if all I'm paying for, like the 35 or 40 bucks, whatever they're charging for it, is like the updated graphics, then I'll save that money and I'll just play the originals, because I think the originals are, they're awesome anyway. The physics of the game, I'm used to all that stuff. I don't know if any of that's changed in the new Insane Trilogy. I just don't know. So yeah, it's kind of a risk. Also, I've noticed that our little Crash Bandicoot thing is not showing up. Or if he has, then I have not seen it yet. I know a couple people sent, let's see, we had a super chat. I'm going to scroll back up to that. Bradley Gilbert. What's going on, Bradley? Thank you for that $1.99 super chat. Great videos. Thoughts on GoPros? Is it worth it? My experience with GoPros is they're convenient and under very specific circumstances. Obviously, like if you want to mount something, kind of just click go live and forget, or whatever, click record and forget, then yeah, sure, it's fine for that stuff. But you're just going to be, I think you'll be disappointed, even with the newer stuff. And I've had hands-on, you know, experiences with up to the GoPro Hero 5, so I can't really speak to the 6, but in my experience, the sensors are really small, so low light performance is not going to be that great. The quality of the image is always kind of just subpar to me. I mean, I'm used to filming right on DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, and I like, you know, if I see grain in an image, it bothers me a lot. And I always see grain, kind of like distortion in GoPro footage that I've ever taken on anything up to the GoPro 5. So, and that was the GoPro Hero 5 Black, I think, is the one that I had. I actually ended up selling mine because I didn't use it a lot. But if you're always going on adventures, doing cool stuff, then yeah, sure. I mean, that could probably be something that you could look into. I'm trying to figure out, let's see, we have an alert box and widget settings. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but I thought we had Crash Bandicoot showing up on here. Anyway, okay. Trucker Bomb says, I just now got the notification for going live. WTF YouTube. See, Trucker Bomb, by the way, thanks for sponsoring. This is your 3rd month sponsor. I guess that's a good looking battery. It's going to look even better, though, when you get that green one. I think what YouTube did and kind of tries to experiment with is when channels like mine go live, because like a lot of people, and this isn't prime time, you know, like people on a Sunday night or a Monday morning probably aren't going to feel like tuning into a random tech tuber. But I think what YouTube did was probably wait to hold off on those notifications until it saw the video gain some traction. If nobody decided to tune into the live stream, it must not have been that interesting, and then YouTube won't waste the time sending out notifications to people who are actually, you know, subscribed and notified, or at least have that bell notification icon engaged. So I don't really know how YouTube does it, but I have a feeling it's all based on performance within the first 30 minutes or so of the video, you know, trying to gain that traction, that traffic, that virability, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, anyway, interesting ways that they can do stuff. Okay, Captain Produce 1. Hey Greg, I bought the Fantex 350X case after watching your video, but I can't use the built-in RGB because it doesn't work on my Z270 board with Asus. From Asus with Aura Sync. Please help. I think the 350X is addressable RGB. So you will, unless your motherboard supports addressable RGBs, which seeing as though it's Z270, I don't know if it will, then you're gonna have to either buy an adapter, which I'm not even sure if when you buy an adapter from addressable to non-addressable, you're gonna be able to just plug and play. I don't know for sure. Worst case, you'll have to keep them separate. But the fact that the case does have onboard support for addressability means that it's really only going to come sync with, it's only going to really sync up with the stuff that's new. And that's actually a good point. I never thought about that because the build that I put in the system is a newer build, and it does have addressable support in the motherboard. But you could always just, I don't know, you could always just run them separate. I mean, the functionality overall is not going to be impacted as long as you keep the settings the same. Just set your case to whatever color scheme you want, and then you can adjust your inboard settings after the fact. That's probably as good as I can tell you at this point. I'm not sure about the addressable versus non-addressable though. Let's see. Looks Legit 87 says, "How you doing, Greg?" I'm doing all right. For Sunday night, I'm doing all right. A little slow. I'm still a little tired today. We were installing an Axleback exhaust on the Q60, so then it started raining like right in the middle of it, so we had to wait to finish it up. Man, they torque those bolts on so tight. You just gotta we were taking this huge rubber hammer and just clipping the side the ratchet so that we could loosen the thing. But that was a big part of what I was doing today. What I was busy with. Had my brother and a few others help us. So Nate's watching the live stream. Nate knows who he is. Nate helped us as well. Mr. Snoo86, any plans to do giveaways to your subscribers? Yeah, I want to talk about giveaways for a second. It's a good point. The reason why we've not done many major giveaways, for one, I feel like in the past we've used them to grow the channel. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's an effective means to grow the channel. But the problem is when you grow with that base of people who are interested in usually only the giveaway, not necessarily your channel, because you're just drawing them in with that product that you're giving away, then you don't get the retention rate that you're probably looking for, right? So if we gained 50,000 subs from one giveaway, which would be a pretty high expectation, then those 50,000 subs probably won't tune into many of the videos after that giveaway video. And on top of that, they might end up unsubscribing later on just because they weren't into the content, they were just into the free stuff. So I've more or less shifted my mentality with giveaways to just to keep the people who are already here, who are already kind of intertwined. Oh, I see the chat, the Crash Bandicoot thing's working. Okay, I don't know what I was seeing before, but I guess it's working. Awesome. And I'll get to you, Patrick. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think from now on it's going to be kind of like what I was talking about in that video about how we're not going to do giveaways from our own channel via Gleam anymore. Whenever we team up with partners or companies, if they want to use Gleam, fine. I'm not going to protest against it. But we've done giveaways on live streams before. We'll just give away $50 gift cards to Amazon, whatever. So that's just a way for us to give back to people who actually do stay engaged. The people that go out of their way to watch the live streams, to watch the videos, those are the people I want to win giveaways because they're the ones who have been here for so long. So we'll pick that up again. It's a little tough right now with YouTube doing what it's doing, bending us over and not recommending many videos in favor of the large tech channels who have the traction. It's tough. It's all money. It's all about money for YouTube. So we'll get it. We'll get it in soon. I see Patrick Eaton. What's going on for that $2 super chat? Thank you, my dude. I want a 1440p monitor, 32-inch 144 or 35-inch ultra-wide 100 hertz. Look, I was okay with 100 hertz until I kept switching between that and 165, which for all intents and purposes, let's say 144. So 144 looks to me worlds better than 100 hertz. And I know that sounds super first world, like I sound like a snob right now, but anybody who's gamed on a 144 hertz monitor going back to anything under, I would say, 120 hertz, is gonna notice, and it's probably gonna bug the heck out of you. So I would always go for the higher refresh rate monitor. Honestly, 32 inches is pretty big. You might want to drop the size maybe to 27 inches or so. I can't play on a big 32-inch monitor unless I'm sitting 4 feet from it, especially when I'm playing first-person shooters. It's too much real estate to have to cover this close up to the screen. So that's my experience with it, but take that for what you will. Okay, I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. I missed a few of them. Primal Ninja asks when the next gen graphics cards are coming out. I have no idea. I talked about this a little earlier. Scroll back in the live stream if you want to hear me talk more about it. Merc305, how do you think the i5-8400 is going to be? How long do you think it's going to be relevant? i5-8400, I mean, relevance is subjective. If it can play your games, fine. And I think it'll play games for the next 3 or 4 years before you feel like really needing to upgrade. And that's because you have 6 cores there. The overclock ability is another thing that you're not going to be able to take advantage of, but I still think, I mean, the clock speeds are decent for what they are, and that's around AMD clock speeds, right? It's still going to be, I would say, solid for what it is. Let's see. Yeah, Captain Produce, if you can't figure out how to plug them in, that's what I was saying. If it's not supported by your motherboard, you're not going to be able to run them together. So just run them independent. It's not going to hurt anything in the long run. Just set your case LEDs to what you think they should be set at, and then just do everything else in your motherboard, and it's going to still look fine. It's just one extra step you've got to do. Someone said, is it also sad that YouTube didn't notify you about the live stream? Like, I'm just kind of like, whatever at this point. Like, YouTube's going to bag us whenever they can. No worries. I appreciate you guys watching anyway, especially if you didn't get notified. You're just scrolling through YouTube. You see a live stream. That's awesome. I appreciate that too. Haya, is that how you're saying him? Haya? Will you ever call the people who overprice their rigs and put it in a video, then ask them why it's really high priced? I've done that before. I've already done that in a previous Craigslist video where I called the people who were asking for these insane prices and tried to get them to rationalize, their like thought process, like why on earth would you charge this much money for this rig? Is basically what I would call and ask them for, and it's kind of sketchy because you can't really do that legally in most states, and so it's something that you've got to be really careful with. And yeah, it really comes down to just like potential litigation processes that could ensue if I decided to do that and record those people from those ads without their knowledge. So yeah, that's really about it. I just don't want to take the chance of getting sued, and potentially rightfully so sued, because in some states it's illegal to record a conversation without the other person knowing that they're being recorded. So yeah, there's that for you. Unfortunately, I know that would be super entertaining, but I want to be around in a year. How good is the AMD Prism stock cooler? Is it sufficient for overclocking? This is from TL Opaque. I guess that's how you say your name. I'm using the Prism right now. That's the RGB one, right? That's included in the 2700X box, and I've been using it. It's great. I've overclocked everything across the board to 4.2 gigahertz with a stock cooler. It's doing really well. So yeah, you could overclock it. I mean, it's not gonna be the highest overclocks. Temps will run a little high, but it's actually pretty quiet for what it is. It looks great. I mean, it's a stock cooler. So yeah, I don't think you need. I think you can be fine with that at first. If you still decide you don't like it later, just buy something after the fact. But that's what I would say. Vetrix, yo, what's your favorite processor overall? Recently, I've been using personally the 8700K. That's in my personal rig right now. If you guys, I'll have a video on this soon, but the rig that I always game on is an 8700K. The rig that I always stream on, this PC here, this has a 2700 in it. It had a 2700X, but I swapped it out. They're essentially the same CPU, and just one has a lower TDP, I believe. And I honestly can't notice. I can't tell much of a difference at all between both. And they have the same graphics card, GTX 1070 Ti. Swapping between both, it's very difficult to notice a difference when gaming in, say, PUBG or GTA 5, or streaming for that matter, with the proper settings. And I use NVIDIA, encoding. I don't use CPU encoding unless I'm playing a game that's really graphics intensive. So it's kind of a tie. I really like the 2700. I think it's great value. The 1700 is like $200 now. That's insane value. But I really appreciate the enhancements with Ryzen 2, Ryzen 2nd Gen, whatever you want to call it. And I think that you'll see in this next build here that I'm working on, this custom loop. I think I'm gonna go full-fledged in AMD for a while, just so I can get just a full kind of opinion about the CPU as my daily driver versus something I just occasionally use when it's convenient. But yeah, it's got to be between those right now. Let's see here. We have the good stuff. You guys are asking good questions. I appreciate that. I'm trying to be as quick with these as possible, so you guys feel like I'm actually doing you something, like doing you solid. Let's see. Dissonance. Do open back headphones make a big difference in gaming, like positional audio? I've used one headset. It sounds different, but barely. Like I don't know. I don't consider myself like a true audiophile, but I know what sounds good and what doesn't. I know when audio sounds compressed and crappy. The headset, I don't even remember the headset I used, but it was that style. It was okay. I wouldn't pay more for it, but I wouldn't pay more for that functionality just because to me it didn't feel or didn't sound worth it. That's just my take on it. Okay, here. I'm looking at gaming PCs. This guy is going off to college and selling his PC for tuition money. It's an i5 with a 1060, and it's being sold for 500 Canadian, like 800 USD. Should I run diagnostics? Should you run diagnostics? That's a weird question. Would you mean should you entertain the offer? Probably. And if in Canadian dollars, whatever you guys call them, yeah, it's gonna be a little more expensive up there, as far as I know, for pretty much anything. So isn't it funny? Like you just cross the border, and then CPUs cost $100 more across the board. Like that to me is insane. And I noticed that when I go to Germany to see Lisa, I noticed that her prices in some categories are pretty respectable. They're similar to ours. Like RAM was actually pretty cheap in some parts of Germany, and then graphics cards were really expensive. Motherboards were really expensive. CPUs were, I don't know why CPUs in particular are super expensive. I know you guys have the VAT and stuff, but CPUs are just, good gosh. So, and they're small. I know they're not expensive, relatively speaking, to ship. So I don't know. Do you think GTX 10 series prices will continue to drop? I expect so until the market equilibrium is reached. Right now, we're at a point where people are comfortable buying back graphics cards. Now, unless you guys decide that you don't want to spend whatever they're being priced at right now to buy one, then they're going to keep dropping. But if a lot of you start buying these cards now that the prices are kind of back at MSRP, which is not where they should be at, by the way. They should be lower than MSRP because they've been out for over a year. Then, we might not have the prices drop anymore. It's all about supply and demand. If they notice that they're selling like hotcakes at these prices, why on earth would they lower the prices anymore? I just haven't been following the market close enough to be able to tell you exactly what's going on. But in a nutshell, that is the process taking place under the table. MST 3K, what's going on, my dude? $5 super chat. Recommendation for a case with 2 fans in front with room for a DVD drive and glass side panel. I know the one case that comes to mind right away is the Fantex Entho Pro. Is it the Fantex Entho Pro? I'm pretty sure it's the Entho Pro. Let me see. I got Amazon on this. Entho Pro. Yeah, it's the Pro M. And they have the Pro tempered glass model. So that's got like 4 CD drives in it, right? Not that's the Entho Pro full on. You can get the Entho Pro M tempered glass case for $100, and that's got tempered glass on the side. It also has, I believe, a DVD drive in it. It should, optical drive. The other one I had did. Yeah, it does. So yeah, that's the case I would get for whoever just asked that. MST 3K. I would get the Fantex Entho Pro M tempered glass panel or tempered glass edition. For $100, I think that's a good price. It has an optical drive bay in it and tempered glass and doesn't look bad. Okay, I know I missed a couple super chats. Let me go back here real quick and get these. Let me knock these out, folks. Here we go. Okay, I see Trucker Bomb. I see your super chat. I see the bait. I ain't falling for it. Good try though. Thanks for supporting us, by the way. I know Trucker Bomb. Trucker Bomb's always here. It's a good question. I would say the second one, because I see better commercials for the second one. So going just off of the commercials, the second one is the one I would go for. KH, think about that $1.99 super chat. Why don't you post shirtless pics on Insta anymore? Because I am not. That's a good one. Because I am nowhere near as big as I used to be. I've thinned up a lot. I used to work out. For those who didn't watch the channel in the very, very beginning, back when I still had some meat on my bones, I was coming out of high school, I was about 130 pounds, so 58 or so kilos, whatever, in my head, that's roughly what it is. And then my first year in college, it was a business school, Troy University, very easy. And relatively good. And then I went to engineering school. That was a lot harder. I actually had to really study for some of those tests. But I was kind of just breezing through the business classes, and I was like, I want to do something. This is before I had the YouTube channel. I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. I went to the gym twice a day, every day for must have been 5 months. I was taking a protein shake, all the good stuff. I was bulked up hard. I think leaving school that year, after the second semester, I weighed 155. I want to say I put on 25 pounds of solid muscle, and that's what those old pics on my Instagram you're seeing when I was like jacked. That's what that was. And then after that year, I got into engineering school. I started doing YouTube. I had absolutely no time to work out, especially twice a day. and I lost all the muscle. So then I went back down to like 130, 135. And I'm like 5'9", 5'10", so I'm not short. So I look skinny because I'm not, I don't have a wider frame. So yeah, that's my my story of famedom, or fame. Yeah, my story of fame, and then I lost it all. That's basically what that was. I just didn't find it worth it to keep working out that hard, forcing myself to eat, drink 2 protein shakes a day and gorge myself in meals. It wasn't worth it. It was too much upkeep. All right, back to the tech. Will's here for the shirtless pics. He did not super chat $100 for that. Don't believe him. Greg, while I certainly understand if you guys purchase GPUs now, they'll skyrocket come about tomorrow, but won't the same happen with the 11 or 20 series launch? Yeah, but the difference is it's all about production cycles, right? So usually when you produce, you have this new architecture, and you start implementing these into new cards that you're rolling out for the first time ever. The production cycle is totally different for these companies. These companies expect when these new things are released for them to be selling like hotcakes. So they flood the market with inventory. Typically, we didn't see that with like a Vegas 64 or 56. That was a little, they had to scale back that. And I don't really know the full extent of why those prices never really leveled off to what they should have been. But most of the time when you have a new product, you flood the market with a product that you've had in stock. And that way you can keep the prices stable. That did not happen, I believe, with the 8700K. Intel was behind on inventory, and you saw the prices rise in accordance with that because there wasn't enough supply to meet the demand. So you raise prices, that lowers demand, then you have another market equilibrium. But then once you get that inventory back into cycle, then you have more supply, and demand's kind of the same, so you slide yourself down that supply curve a little more, and then you have a lower market equilibrium price. It's difficult to explain without a graph, but you get the point. And I have videos talking about the supply and demand of graphics cards and how the prices are affected by outside sources. Weeb, thank you for that $5 super chat. My dude, what are your favorite non-tech YouTube channels? I get this question like almost every live stream. I answered this last time with Doug DeMiro, and I'm going to say it again because I just love Doug. I think Doug's a really genuine dude just from what I've seen, all the videos I've watched. I mean, if he's not the way he is in his videos, he's a great actor. Like, you just get the feeling that Doug is the same way on camera that he is off, and that's what I try to do too. But we're always gonna have this thing where we get really stressed out. We don't want people to see us stressed out and stuff. Like, I can't picture Doug getting stressed out about anything. And the way he brings that just so eloquently to his car reviews, to me, it's just that's a special gift, and he's doing what he loves, and he's doing it well, and I'm happy for him. Okay, let's see here. I am scrolling up. Ooh, I see a couple good ones here. I'll get to your super chat. I see it. Okay. Would an i3 or i5 Sandy Bridge be a good idea with a GT 1030 and an Optiplex? Yeah, depending on what you want to do, little Jim, I would say that. Yeah, it's good. Your graphics card's going to be bottleneck more than likely in many situations. Sandy Bridge is still viable. I mean, it's not like you're going to see maybe a 20% jump in many games from a frame rate perspective when you jump from Sandy Bridge to, say, KB Lake or Coffee Lake. But that's not to say that they're not good CPUs, especially when you get them on the cheap. So I would never shun, Ivy Bridge era CPUs unless you can't get them for a good price, in which case avoid it. Alan Huntington, thank you for that $5 super chat. My dude, any reason not to buy Ryzen 2200G over the 1300X if the price is the same? I don't see a reason. And we've had this talk with Brian before on his live streams. That's a good point. And no, if I had the choice between both, and the 1300X was the same price of 20. I mean, they're the exact same, right? They're almost the exact same CPU. I would go with the 2200G just because you do have integrated graphics and a pretty solid integrated graphics at that. When you compare it to something like the Intel HD, whatever 620 graphics or whatever is embedded in the modern stuff now, it's a good step in the right direction. And I'm glad that AMD actually rolled these CPUs out for the people that are very budget conscious. Just want something that's decent for HTPCs, light gaming, MOBA, stuff like that. Ryzen 2200G and the 2400G are actually really good for that stuff. Okay. Opinions on a bachelor's in computer engineering. It's tough. Computer engineering is not easy. I took a few electronics classes in my degree field, whatever you want to call it, and the most difficult stuff for me was all about like AC nodal analysis, stuff like that. Like, that's all pretty technical. I'm not sure how much of like computer engineering overlaps with electrical engineering. You'd probably have to do a lot more programming. That would make sense to me. But in general, it's going to be more difficult, in my opinion, than say like a mechanical engineer, because I can picture mechanical processes taking place, and that's what my degree and mechanical are pretty similar. But I can picture mechanical processes taking place, and when I can picture something, it's great, right? I can understand it, I can explain it, that's awesome. But electrical stuff, I really can't picture AC, I can't picture AC anything in my head. When you start throwing trig in there, it's just like, oh. So that's been my experience with it. It's more difficult than your average mechanical. That's not taking anything away from mechanical, just in my opinion, from how easy mechanical was for me, which it still wasn't, super simple. It was much easier than the electrical stuff. My degree was in petroleum engineering. Dom Rose, 27. Let's see. I'm scrolling. Someone asked, Edward Wirtz, how do you feel about Madden coming back to PC where it all started? I am excited and can't wait. I'm wondering. I've never played Madden, like any NFL, college football, whatever. I've never played any football game on a PC before. So I don't know, like do you have keys for, like, can you program, like, do you have hotkeys for certain plays or something? Like, how does that work? I feel like it would be totally different than playing on a controller, right, of the console, just because you have so much more at your disposal, and football is in large part like a strategy, like how, what kinds of plays, your runs, types of people you throw to, stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's more dynamic, and I feel like PC fits that perfectly. So interesting. I'll definitely try it out. I remember, playing NCAA, whatever, college football back in 2012, 2013 era, when I was really big into consoles, and that was fun. It really was. Okay, Kui, is that how you say it? Kai, whatever, Blader. Do you like pony cars? My mom has a Mustang GT, like a 2017 or something like that, 2016. It's a really nice car. I actually debated getting a Mustang instead of my Q60, but I just I love forced induction. I love the tunability associated with forced induction, and going with a naturally aspirated V8 like my Audi was, I wanted something different. I wanted something I could tune in the long run, and that's why I went with the Q60. Twin turbos, 400 horsepower and a V6. It's fun. It's fun to drive. It's just the traction is so bad. I got to get stickier, wider tires. Let's see. Xbox or PlayStation? I have a PlayStation PS4 Pro. Not that was like super excited. Like, oh, here's the Pro, whatever. Like, it looks the same to me. it's all like, consoles look totally different than PCs to me. The gaming experience, just because you can do so much more with PCs. Granted, with much higher budgets, but still, the upgradability is there. Kind of like what I was talking about just now with naturally aspirated V8s and the tunability of forced induction, turbocharged, and supercharged cars. You can just get so much more out of them for what they are with PCs, and I love that. What's the oldest GPU you have on hand? I have, oh crap. On hand, I don't have many old graphics cards. Usually I throw those, like, because all the old ones I have to buy myself, right? So I'll throw those into old builds that I put together from parts sourced on Craigslist and whatnot, and I'll usually just sell them for a quick buck. It's been a while since I've done that, just because it's very time consuming, and to have to meet people and whatnot for just like often as little as $50 on like a trade or a sale. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's difficult to focus more on that than on the channel, because the channel's like, that's my main source of income. So if I don't make videos on the channel, it's more impactful for me than if I don't make, used PCs to sell online. Good question though. Okay, we said, like, what are your thoughts on GeForce Now? Will Humphreys, I don't know if Will's here, but Will uses GeForce Now all the time, and it's actually pretty responsive. I'm surprised the latency is as minimal as it is. Excuse me. I expected, he plays PUBG on his MacBook with us, and he streams it totally from GeForce Now, and he's like in their beta program or whatever, and he tells me all the time, he's like, it's not bad. Like, he actually does pretty well in certain Sometimes he doesn't do well. I think it's more skill related than anything. Sorry, Will. But playing on a MacBook is no easy feat, and he makes it work, especially with GeForce Now. So yeah, I think it's promising. I just think that their subscription services, or how they're going to charge people to use the streaming service, is going to be really weird. I don't really know the full extent of it yet, but interesting to see roll out. ML Fez, I don't know how to say that. Do you think we will get a boost in CPUs next year, similar to the GPU? What do you think of rumors regarding the GTX 1080? Rumors, I think that's what you mean. I don't look at rumors. I talked about that earlier in the live stream. That's all I'll say about that. You can scroll back if you want to hear more about it. But for CPUs jumping up in terms of IPC, we see this more with graphics cards, I think, because graphics cards are designed for different things. And the way that you design graphics card architecture is very different. Parallelism is like the point, right, of graphics cards. That's why they have multiple cores, thousands of cores most of the time. And even the ones that have, 36 or 48 CUDA cores, 72 CUDA cores, 500 or so CUDA cores, and then you have some that have over 2,000 CUDA cores. Like they are designed differently, and because their applications are wide-ranging, whereas CPUs, CPUs are just used for different things. Is really all I can say about that. And when it comes down to the fabrication processes, I can tell you that if we could do more in the time spans that we have when we expect new generations to roll out, I'm sure we would. Although I question, when Intel makes a questionable 4% IPC jump from generation to generation, you got to wonder, are they really trying? Whereas AMD kind of did a similar thing from 14 to 12, right? From Summit Ridge to, I want to say Raven Ridge, is that right? 12 nanometer. 1700X, 2700X, you know what I'm talking about. That jump was still pretty small, right? The IPC jump was very minimal, but the differences between those two more or less came down to like voltage control, overclockability, RAM support, right? With the Infinity Fabric, they were fine-tuning all that stuff. So a lot of it really comes down to, it's kind of user-based. It's all based on certain case scenarios. But in general, I think we still see jumps. Look, it's taken NVIDIA, 2 years, now coming on 3 years now to roll out new architecture. CPUs come out every year. So if you look at CPU jumps every 3 years, it might be a little more equitable. Okay, scrolling up. Rajmir, is the 60 Hz monitor worth overclocking to 70 or 72? Yeah, you can overclock it, sure. It might run a little hotter, but monitors, you can overclock a monitor. Like, if you overclock a monitor past a certain range that it supports, like let's say you overclock to 75, and it doesn't support 75, then you're just going to get a black screen, and assuming you're using like the NVIDIA control panel, you'll have to wait 15 seconds for it to revert back to the 60 Hertz refresh rate, and it'll tell you that it's out of range, right? Or your monitor might actually specifically say that. And that tells you that you can't go that high. So you just keep trial and erroring, kind of like overclocking, until you get something that's comfortable, and there you go, you get an overclock system, right? So, I don't know how to say that. What are your thoughts on making gaming a disorder? Because some countries make it official. I feel like if you make, there are people who are truly obsessed with video gaming. I don't think making it a disorder is a smart idea from what I've seen. I think there are probably, exceptions to this, of course. But when you tell somebody that they have a gaming disorder, in my opinion, that kind of enables them. When you tell them they have a problem, then they feel like it's okay to have that problem. But to me, a gaming disorder is as easy to correct as, to me, that's not something that you should be able to link to a certain part of the brain functioning differently, like there's some kind of defect or whatever. To me, it's just, it enables kids. If you tell them that they're obsessed and that they can control it, they can overcome it. It's not, it's not a disorder. It's just them choosing this over this, and it's not smart. Maybe there's a chance that they won't have that disorder, in the first place. I don't know. It's kind of a weird, tricky subject, and some people get really offended by stuff like that, but I don't think it's a disorder. I think there are exceptions, but that's about it. Hector, howdy everybody, what's going on, my dude? MST3K says, I have a YouTube disorder. I think we all have a little bit of a YouTube disorder. If you're watching this live stream right now, chances are you either got a notification and you love the channel, and I appreciate that, or 2, you're here to troll me, and I still kind of appreciate that because you keep it lively in here, or 3, you were scrolling randomly through YouTube and you're like, wow, who's this guy? Science Studio. And in which case, there you go, example C. So, yeah, thanks for being here, by the way. You guys, 236 of you on a Sunday night / Monday morning. You guys are awesome. And also, our like to dislike ratio is not totally trash like it usually is. It's probably going to go to trash now that I said that. Probably should have avoided the topic. Leo Bittencourt, does overclocking without touching voltages and with good temperatures degrade hardware? I mean, degrade hardware. Like, hardware's going to degrade anyway over time. Anything that runs hot is going to naturally degrade. But if you jump voltages, it's going to degrade faster. To the extent that that happens or occurs, we can't really quantify it because we haven't had controlled scenarios for that long to see CPUs blow up. In general, CPUs don't die very quickly. You'll have a power supply die quicker in most cases, or a hard drive, or even maybe a graphics card before your CPU dies. That's a very specific issue that I would say in most of the time isn't going to be the issue itself. Okay, Potatogenic, what's going on? $3.99 super chat, my dude. Any experience with 3D physics simulators? Not really. No, I hate to just say no and move on, but yeah, I've never anything that involves programming, anything that's like programming to me, software engineering is just, it's a totally different world, and I just haven't been able to sit down long enough to actually pick up on the cues, right, when it comes to coding in whatever language you happen to be coding in. If it's tough. Like, the closest thing to a 3D physics simulator I ever used was Universe Sandbox, and I don't know if you even call it a physics simulator, but like, it's an unofficial game type thing, right, where you can manipulate objects in space. It's actually really intuitive. That's as close as I've ever gotten to something like that. Let's see. Vetrix, what's your favorite game to benchmark? GTA 5 is always my favorite. I've benchmarked GTA 5 since I started the channel. And yeah, that tells you how young the channel is by comparison. But I just like the consistency of it. I haven't noticed like huge improvements, like whenever they roll out software updates for the game, right, via Steam, whatever. I don't notice like huge performance jumps, especially if I'm using the exact same hardware, and that tells me it's a good thing. It tells me it was pretty optimized from the start. So those marginal improvements really benefit the newer hardware coming out. Of course, they're always adding new stuff to the online modes and whatnot. So it's just, to me, it's a consistent benchmark. It's reliable, and it's very easy to run. And there's so many settings you can change and manipulate that it's also pretty intuitive from that aspect as well. Okay, we are scrolling up. Is it Saturday? Oh, it is Saturday. Trucker Bomb just said use this to buy a calendar so you realize it's Saturday. I seriously thought this was Sunday. That tells you how like crazy my day's been. I can't believe this. This is a revelation. This is insane. I literally started this live stream with the expectation that it was Sunday. I am so out of it right now. That is insane. I feel embarrassed to an extent, but at the same time I think it's really funny. So thanks for stopping by on a Saturday night. This is not what it's supposed to be. Maybe we'll still do a stream tomorrow night. I don't know. But I totally went into this thinking it was Sunday. This is super weird. Felipe, can you say something concerning your mic? A Blue Yeti and a cheaper one. So I use a B2 Pro for this system. I have a B1 Behringer. These are Behringer mics. B1 over there. I have a Yamaha soundboard, MG10XU. And that's good for like, I think 4 XLR inputs. And then I have a Blue Yeti in the other room, which I use more or less for like, temporary sound recordings for videos, like if I voiceover stuff. And then I have an AT2035, which is also, it's similar to a B2. I think the B2s sound better for the price. The AT2035 is it sounds a little more dynamic, but I like the B2 sounds really warm, and I like, especially when I get very close to it, which I'm usually about 2 feet or so from it. So if you get very close, it sounds crystal clear. I love it. Okay, Shiro XL, Greg, what are your thoughts on the AOC 4K curved monitor? I don't even know what monitor you're talking about, but in general, I don't look at 4K monitors for gaming just because I don't think they're worth it. I'm much more comfortable with a 1440p high refresh rate panel. That's much more affordable typically than the high refresh rate 4K monitors that are starting to make their way into the market. Okay, do you yawn in your sleep? Good question, Jeffy. That's actually a really good question. Jeffy's always filled with good questions. I remember a good question you asked last time, too. Tommy DZ, what's the best starter YouTube cam? G7, G85 from Panasonic, in that range. I wouldn't spend more than $1,000. Like, to me, you know, if you're going to jump full-fledged into YouTube without knowing if your channel's actually going to gain traction or not, then I wouldn't spend, you know, thousands of dollars on hardware. Like, I see guys buying so much expensive stuff, like stuff that I don't even have. You know, like I don't use the most expensive thing I have is a Sony A7S II, and I just bought that. Like for the longest time, I've been using the G85, which is $1,000 camera. Before that, I had a Panasonic FZ1000, which is like a fixed lens variant of the G7, and then before that, I had a Nikon D50-100. Okay, so I haven't had the most expensive hardware, the most up-to-date stuff, but I make it work. I mean, my light panels are cheap. I have those two in the filmer right now. They're just fluorescent panels. I don't have a $400 light kit or whatever, and I make it work. You know, like it's not going to give me the best result. I understand, but I make it work given the limitations that I have with the hardware I have on hand. That's just my take on it. I don't think you need super expensive stuff to get quality content out there. Okay, scrolling down. Okay, PS1 Freak 26. My GPU fans stop sometimes and get really hot. When it happens, what do I do to oil? What do I use to oil the fans? Your fans stop? And that's weird. Is it an old graphics card? The fans sometimes stop because they're newer cards, and they stop because you're not under heavy loads. So it's a way of keeping the system very quiet until you get under an immediate load. But assuming that's not what you're talking about, if you have an old card, yeah, I would just grease the crap out of the fans, the bearings. I don't know how else you could do that. You can't just buy a new shroud for it. So yeah, I would just grease it, just try your best. And then make sure you have decent airflow from the front of the case, I presume, hitting that graphics card so it's able to push it out. All right, okay. Hockey Shots 13. Do you like expensive shirts or shoes? I really don't have expensive clothing. I've never been one to buy, you know, $50 t-shirts and crap. Like I don't even buy $50 jackets or $50 hoodies. Like I whenever I go shop, like I'll go to whatever, JCPenney, Kohl's, whatever's like mainstream here. I don't shop very much, obviously, you can tell. I always try to go to like the discount racks. Like I look for the stuff that's like 50 to 80% off, and I buy like this shirt here cost me like $4. Like I'll never buy a shirt like this for $20. That's never gonna happen. So I always try to not cut corners, but cut costs when it comes to clothing, because I'm not that like. I care more about like how my car looks or like how my PCs look versus how I look with clothing, because that's just, to me, that's just too, this is superficial in a way that I'm not interested in. I would save all the money that I would spend on shirts and stuff and throw it into a nice kit for my car or something. Like that's how I would spend my money instead. So clothing, eh. All right, what's going on, Lieutenant Goldenrod? How you doing, my dude? Edward Burt says, have a good night, all. Thanks for stopping by, Edward. I appreciate it. Matt C, in all caps, question, what do you think is the best PC case for cooling for around $60? For cooling, I don't do case reviews strictly from cooling perspectives. That's not really a question for me, I would say. I mean, I have a video on the best $69, $59 case. You can check those videos out, but from a cooling aspect, I don't really look at, I mean, you could get cases that have just pure mesh up front, pure mesh up top, you know, like those are going to be decent cooling cases, but I don't run tests strictly from cooling perspectives and base my entire review around that. I'm not that other channels do that. Other channels emphasize it way more than I do, but I look at cases more or less as a functional piece. From like a build perspective, how easy it is to cable manage, I weigh those more heavily than I do airflow, unless airflow is absolutely terrible, and then I'm like, don't buy it. I think buying a case strictly for an airflow perspective that's like 1 out of 4 variables that I would consider personally. Although some people base their whole purchasing decision with cases on that one variable. For me, it's about cost, first off, value. Second, I would say it's about aesthetics. Honestly, I would pick a case just because it looked good. Third, I would say buildability, like how easy it is to build in it, cable manage, what have you. And then I would say fourth is airflow. And again, unless airflow is absolutely crap, then it becomes my first priority, especially with that case in mind. Then it would be my fourth most important variable. That's just me, and that's why I don't heavily weigh airflow like other channels do. just because it's not something I personally care much about, unless I'm looking for like that optimal, super cool system. Okay, let's see. You pick Hannah. I have a 2700X that freezes, and then my PC won't post until it randomly starts working again after fiddling with things. Any ideas what could be wrong? Do you hear clicking sounds when it randomly starts and stops? You might be short-circuiting it somewhere. That's like the first thing I think of when I read that comment. It could be a power supply issue. Could be motherboard related. It could be maybe if you have extensions, cable extensions, maybe you don't have a cable plugged into your power supply correctly. It's tough. I mean, if the whole system's tripping and turning off and on, I would say that's more or less a power related issue, and that could be a short circuit. It could be your power supply itself. I don't know. It's tough. What's your wattage? What's your power supply wattage? Maybe you're not getting enough wattage to your system. That's tough. Okay, I'm scrolling down to the good stuff. Here we go. Scrolling down. Okay, here we go. Custom. Currently haven't. Oh, okay. Some of you guys are answering questions for other people. That's awesome. You're doing my job for me. Thank you. And more input is necessary, by the way. Like, I am one person, so more opinions out there give the potential buyer a wider range of options to consider, and that's always good. More options are almost always better. Programmer, what is the cheapest, pro gamer, excuse me, what is the cheapest gaming computer setup for a YouTuber that's trying to grow? Please help me budget of $1,000. GTX 1060, i5 8400, or Ryzen 5 1600, 2600, in that range. 500 watt power supply, 16 gigs of RAM. There you go. Decent editing rig. And gaming rig too. Felipe, so he says, "What would you like to come to Germany?" I've been to Germany, my dude. My wife lives in Germany right now. Hopefully that changes soon. But I've been to Germany like 4 times. Like, so I would like to go back. Yeah, but right now it's really expensive. Tickets right now they're seasonal, right? So if you try to go to Europe in the summer, it's expensive. It's like $2,000 to $2,500 for me to fly out of my city to somewhere in Switzerland or Germany. But if Lisa flew here, it's only like €600. So I'm like, what the heck? Like, it flip flops. And then in the summertime well, not summertime for us, in the wintertime for us in the States and Europe, because they're in the Northern Hemisphere too. I don't know why I said that. It's cheaper for me to fly to her. So I don't really know how it all works out, but whatever. Comes in waves. It's seasonal, definitely seasonal. Holy water, have you been to Canada? Yes, I have, very temporarily. I've been to Canada twice. Once was in Vancouver. We took an Alaskan cruise out of there. This is back when I was 12 or 13. We took a cruise out of Vancouver up to Alaska. It was one of my favorite vacations ever. And then we also went to Toronto, near Toronto. If you want to call Niagara Falls near Toronto. We were in Canada temporarily after the Niagara Falls visit, but it wasn't very long. Not enough to see all of Canada, or whatever you want to that qualifies as. And then I was there for some like community help work at one point, and that was actually right outside of Toronto. So yeah, I've been to Canada 3 times, and my take on it, because I've been there twice in the summer, it gets pretty hot up there too. Like, I was surprised. I expected it to be cold. You think Canada, you think, oh, it's always snowing in Canada. Well, that ain't true, first off. And second off, it gets very hot. It even gets humid in the Toronto area, and I did not expect that at all. I was sweating pretty hard outside. Okay, let's see here. i5 2400 and GTX 660 system. How much should I sell this for if I include a 17-inch 4x3 monitor, keyboard, and mouse? That's tough. Look, I would go on eBay, check out what the i5 2400 is selling for. I don't know off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've dabbled in that gen. So I would check to see what the CPUs themselves are selling for on eBay. Try to price out your motherboard or something close to it. Price out a GTX 660. And then everything else in your system, power supply, drive, your keyboard, your mouse, your monitor, like, those are going to be really cheap. Like, you're almost throwing those in as a convenience factor. Don't try to upsell your system by including a crappy monitor. That's my take on it. I don't like it when people try to do that and say, here, pay more for this because I've thrown in this really cheap monitor you could get brand new at Walmart for $20 more. So yeah, I would refer to eBay or a used site like that to price out your system if you are unsure. Let's see. Kryptonic HGs. Can we all just agree that he looks better with glasses? The only reason I put contacts in today was because I was working outside. But otherwise, I would usually just wear glasses. I used to be super uncomfortable wearing them, and then I got the recent frames that I've been wearing quite a bit for like the last year or two, and I felt a lot more comfortable with those. I think they're more modern. The lenses I had before that, they're in a few videos. They're like long and narrow and rectangular, and they just look so bad. So and I got ones that look a little more up to date, a little more hip, and people have been rolling with it ever since. I don't see anybody complaining, saying I look weird, so that's cool. You always feel weird when you try something else on, but to other people, especially if it's the first time they've seen you, oh, that's his normal look. They don't think much of it. Okay, scrolling up. Why does a round pizza come in a square box? Jeffy, again, with another intriguing question. That is such a good question. My dude, I don't even know. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, Brian did try that monitor experiment, and I have a feeling it probably worked in a few cases. I haven't actually, if he has the video uploaded, I haven't seen it yet. But I'm gonna talk to him about that and see, because that's something I always notice when we do the Craigslist videos here. People always try to bundle monitors and peripherals and crap and try to charge even more for it. And I usually never... Like, when I buy a PC, I'm buying a PC. Like, I expect, like, if I'm buying a used system, I expect that I'll have the monitor, like, there for me at my house or whatever. I'll use a TV. But most of the time, people include, like I said, crappy monitors. And to me, if you're going to charge me more for something I could get, something I could buy better, spend my money better, and get a nicer monitor than that one, then I would rather do that. I just realized that the Crash Bandicoot thing is, like, getting chopped off whenever somebody sends something. Let me fix that. There we go, and then let's make it a little bigger. Whoops. Alert box, there we go. Make it bigger, put it right. Ugh. You gotta use the arrow keys to get this thing centered up. Okay, and oh, there we go, that's good enough, right? Why is this so difficult? There we go, okay, much better now. I had to straighten that up as best I could. I noticed that it was being covered by the text logo or whatever. What type of cooling would you recommend for a time machine? Steven 000, that's a really good question. I don't know. You'd have to use some sort of... Oh, that's like way beyond me, dude. Good try, though. What are your thoughts on sim racing? I've got a Logitech G920 racing wheel myself. I've never liked, like, I've only used really cheap wheels. So I don't know what the modern ones feel like. We did do that one VR sim game in Taiwan. Jacob did it, and then I did it, and it was interesting. It felt kind of real, kind of like the real deal, but at the same time, racing games in general, I've always ever played with controllers. Like, I grew up playing PlayStation, the original PlayStation, Gran Turismo, that type of stuff, and I always used controllers, whether it be analog or the digital, little scroll wheel, digital, whatever you call it. And I've been so used to playing with that using a real wheel for those kinds of games when I know it's a video game, I'm just not as good with that. So yeah, it sounds really like cheesy, and I don't suck at driving. That makes it sound like I'm not a good driver. But for arcade racing and stuff, I've always used controllers, and I'll probably still use controllers for the foreseeable future. Trucker Bomb, $2 super chat, my dude, 2700K or 6700K with a 1080 Ti, worthwhile upgrading the CPU. Nah. I mean, if you don't see an immediate need to upgrade, I think 6700K is fine. Scrolling down here to the good stuff. Let's see here. I don't know why he says that. That's weird. Okay. We have... What do you think about where I am? It's like 6 a.m. morning, and at you it's night. So if it's 6 a.m. for you, then you are in Europe, I presume. Let's see. I know that Lisa's 7 hours ahead. So 7 hours, 17, 5 a.m. So that means you're slightly further east than Germany. So maybe you're in like the... Greece area off the top of my head. I'm thinking like around Greece. I don't know if like Turkey's in the same time zone as that, but somewhere in that zone. That's what I would say. Would you trust a $210 GTX 1066 gig? It's on eBay. But yeah. I mean, it was probably, I don't know if it's that cheap. Maybe he just wants a quick sale. You know, I remember my dad wanted to sell. We had a Suburban. He sold it for like in like a week because he just priced it so competitively. And like, if you don't want to deal with the haggles, if you feel like just getting the money up front is worth, you know, the cost cut, right, that you're going to give to the buyer, then yeah, it's just difficult to gauge. Like, I would check the seller's reputability, stuff like that. You're eBay guaranteed, right? So if the card's dead, you can get your money back. It's going to be a pain in the butt, but usually you're fine. Okay, here we go. Thank you all. Twitch-esque. Somebody probably helped you in the comments. Thank you guys for answering questions and all the good stuff. Put your thumb in the middle of your forehead. Enrique Memji, what happens when a CPU with integrated graphics and a build with dedicated graphics meet? I'm confused by that question. Anybody get that? I hear crickets. Okay. 8600K versus 8700 non-K. 8700 non-K is still a really good CPU. Unless you plan on overclocking your 8600K to like 5 gigahertz or 5.2 and you primarily game, the 8700K is a better bet thanks to, again, hyper-threading. Intel or Ryzen for gaming? Intel's a better gamer, hands down. Mitchell asks if I'm his dad. It's not probable. It's not probable. It's 7 a.m. here. Where am I? 7 a.m. Oh, Middle East. I'm totally using your name to like group you into this like cluster of the planet, but I I would say somewhere Saudi Arabia area, possibly UAE. I'm thinking you're 9 hours ahead of me, so yeah, that's what I would say. You're in that zone. Am I right? Am I close? Got to be close. How do I... Whoops, I scrolled way too far down. Hold on a second here. Scrolling back up. Okay. Oh, I see it now. Okay, all right, here we go. You should get the Aero 15 instead. Oh, that's a reference to somebody else's question. Awkward. Greg is the GTZ 1090 Ti Boost 2... Boost 2. That sounds so jank. Oh my gosh. Here's a good one. Prabal Yadav NZXT S340 Elite versus H500. I assume you mean the NZXT H500, not the Cooler Master H500. That was like totally a dick move. I would say... Yeah, I like the Elite looks better. I would just go with the Elite just because it's a case I'm more familiar with, and it's based on a very reputable like internal design layout. So yeah. Let's see. Do you think per CCX 8-core would be possible? You mean 8 cores in a single CCX? I'm sure at some point. I mean, that's not the case right now, but I'm sure at some point you could probably cram 8 in there. They'd have to redesign it though, and if they linked anything via the Infinity Fabric, then you'd probably have to change a lot more. That's all beyond me, but yeah, I mean, there's probably a reason why it's not the case right now, because that would of course reduce latency, right, between cores. So interesting. Jonathan Riggs, will your wife ever move to the U.S.? No, we're just gonna live apart the rest of our lives. No, she's planning on moving here. Of course, it's all paperwork and stuff with the governments. She's from Germany, so that's good. I mean, we're in pretty good terms with Germany, so hopefully everything works out. We sent the paperwork in and stuff, so we're just kind of waiting now. Someone says Turkey is delicious. I think it's in reference to to the country of Turkey. Greg, it's 11 a.m. Where am I? 11 a.m. Oh gosh, that's got to be India time zone. That's what I'm thinking. You got to be somewhere in India. If I called that, yeah. Exactly. I know you're intimidated now. You're like, oh, he knows where I live. Okay, I saw a couple super chats. See, let me get to these. We have Raul Alba, $5 super chat. My dude, thank you. Currently on 4670K. Want to upgrade to Threadripper 1920 or Intel X Series 7820X. What would be your advice? 7820X, I would completely avoid the 7820X. And here's why. I'm gonna pull this up so I'm sure that I don't mess it up. Okay. So the 7820X, you get 8 core, 16 threads, right? The 1920X, you get, what is it? 1920X is 12 cores? Is that the 12 core one? Yeah, okay. So you're looking at 8 cores and 12 cores, right? My thing is, unless you're doing some serious programming work, compiling, where you're going to need those threads, those cores, For gaming, content creating, you're going to be better off with a higher clocked, lower core count chip. And at which point, upgrading especially from a 4670K, an 8700K would do great good. A 2700X would do great good. I would say if you're looking at like a 7820X and you're sold on like an 8-core CPU, the 2700X is a much better choice than the 7820K or 7820X. I think those two, like those Intel X series chips, are just so difficult to rationalize for most people. And same with Threadripper, honestly. Like Threadripper is priced better by comparison, but it's still, and it's a very niche CPU for a lot of people that like watch this channel, who game, who content create, and that's really about it. Like I'm saying, encoding. Any kind of coder will benefit from the extra cores. If you're doing like virtual machines, that's fine, but most people aren't doing that kind of stuff on a daily basis. So just take that to heart. Save yourself some cash. I'm scrolling up again. I missed one other super chat. Very quickly, I'll get to you guys. Excuse me. Trey Matthews, $10 super chat. My dude, thank you. What should I look for or change when getting an IA Pro? What? IA Pro proc hot limitation? I've never even seen that before. When all cores never get past 81C in Prime 95. I have deleted 8700K. Do VCCSA or VCCIO have separate thermal monitors? That's actually a good question. I don't think that, to me, that doesn't seem like that's the issue though. If you can't get past 81C in Prime 95, that sounds like something in your BIOS doing that, but I don't think that it's your VCCIO. That's strange. Yeah, your best bet there is going to be probably, I feel bad because you just sent me $10, but your best bet for something very specific like that, because I've never run into that issue, even with that like I have an exact CPU in the system right here. I would say, yeah, you're going to have to dig through some forums, my dude, and just troubleshoot the crap out of it and see what you get, because I don't know what else to tell you. That's very tough. I apologize that I'm not more help, but that would take a lot of diagnosing and a lot of troubleshooting, turning on stuff, turning off stuff, switching through different toggles in the BIOS. Spamurai, I see what you did there. What is your opinion on external water cooling setups, like having the radiators and stuff in a separate box mount? That, to me, it looks a little quirky. I don't like systems that have like reservoirs on the outsides of cases and stuff. Like even if you have a separate unit for all that stuff, it just looks a little quirky. I don't know. Like, why would you do that if you could have it all in one box? Like, to me, I'm more about, like, keeping things compact. Come here, Pepsi. Come here, girl. Come here. She's on the ground. She's trying to jump up. She just clawed the crap out of my leg. If I randomly scream, you know what happened. Come here. Pepsi. Come here. Let me get her up. Come here. People want to see you? People want to see you? Go up here. Okay. Here we go. You see the good people? You see the good people? Oh, she's... Okay. Yeah, alright, she ain't having it. And she's gonna go pull a cable from behind the computer and I'm gonna get lit. Oh, jeez. Captain Produce 199, he says, tell me how to connect RGB in the P350X by itself. There are cables running from the top header in that case that you connect to the headers running along the side RGB strip, right, on the side of the case, and the power button and the front strips. You have to connect all of those. There's probably a manual for how to do it, but the connectors are already in there. Connect those beforehand so you don't get confused on which connector does what, and you should be fine. My streaming thing says I've only been live for 9 minutes and 45 seconds. That's very concerning. Okay, we're gonna wrap this one up soon, folks. Yeah, she's pretty camera shy, I know. I'm glad you guys know her name. That's awesome. I know a few of you are calling her like Beppis. I think that's funny too. Pepsi, just because, I don't know. We were thinking of a name, or like, this is something different. Like, people name their cats like so many, like, oh, another person who named her cat this, or their dog this. So I wanted to do something a little different. That's all this was about. Let's see, one or two more questions. Scrolling down, I'm seeing some good stuff. Upgraded from a GTX 1060 3GB to a 1070. Should I uninstall drivers and reinstall? In most cases, no. Like I've hot swapped cards and I've tested doing like DD1 installs and reinstalling and seeing there's a difference in performance. Usually when you stay within the same architecture, same generation, NVIDIA is pretty smart and will either, reconfigure the software to fit the card automatically, plug and play, or you'll have to uninstall the driver, reinstall it, make sure you don't have conflicts. But for the most part, if it's the same driver will usually be this, you'll have the same driver for both cards is what I'm trying to say. So if you're on 391.10, on a 1060, if you go from that to a 1070, you're probably still going to be on 391.10. That's my experience. I haven't noticed any performance degradations, just hot swapping. But if you want to be safe, DDU it, just play it safe, and you won't have any conflicts there. Greg, what made you major in petroleum engineering or something like computer engineering? I talked about this earlier in the live stream. Computer engineering is just a little beyond me. Petroleum pays more up front on average. It's just a more niche thing, and it's more mechanically based. I understand mechanical engineering better. I can visualize it, and that's why I chose it. And it was really close to home, like Florida to Louisiana, where I went to schools. It wasn't too bad. And it was very, very cheap, considering one of the cheapest engineering degrees I could get. Scrolling down, Matthew asked if I watch Pam Tree. I don't even know what that is, dude. Inferno 174, mustache or beard? My dude, it's gotta be a beard. A mustache is a very particular thing. It looks good on just a few people. Very few people can pull off just a mustache, especially something as ostentatious like a handlebar mustache. Okay, my name is Chick. Donated $9.99. You shorted me 1 penny. I'm not going to hold it against you, though. I appreciate it. Even if I don't agree with them, your opinions make me think from a different perspective, and I appreciate that. Keep up the great work. And that's awesome. That's exactly what I try to say, especially after a review where I do implant a lot of my opinions. I want people to disagree with me. Like, that's totally fine with me. The only thing, like, my pet peeve is when people say, like, well, this isn't, you're wrong about this, blah, blah, blah. But, like, very clearly, it is the case, right? Like, if I say something that's straight off of a spec sheet, from their website, or something that I've literally experienced firsthand on this machine, and then someone says that I'm wrong, like, that's when I argue just because I'm trying to defend myself. But when it comes to opinionated stuff, right? Like, if someone says, I hate the super thin bezels, like, who would say that? But whatever. I don't like super thin bezels on laptops, and I say that I do. Like, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. You can't really do that with opinions anyway. That's kind of what I like. Like, it's an open door to argue, but it's fair play because no one's going to win that argument, right? Like, you're never going to tell somebody that, oh, your opinion's right, my opinion's wrong. Unless it's strictly factual based, based on fact. It's fun to kind of pick people's brains, make them question their opinions, right? People have opinions based on facts, and can't get around that. But people base their opinions too on emotion, on convenience, and that's something I try to get everybody to at least think about. When I tell you that I feel a certain way about something, I try to justify why I feel that way, so that if you don't originally feel that way, and maybe you're like, oh, that's true, I never thought about that before, there you go. It's the sharing of ideas. That's really all it is. Jeffy's got another one here. Here we go, folks. We say tuna fish, but we never say chicken bird. My mind is blown. You guys, Jeffy over here, Jeffy8696 is just going to town. I love these. It's good stuff. Keeps my brain active. That's right, Adam Sleeth says, sharing opinions is how we learn something different and test our knowledge. Well said. Jeffy says, no, not Jeffy. Jeffy says, I question my own opinions. That's good too. You gotta double check your own stances. Like, why do I believe this? Then you can go back and assess your own assumptions and preconceived notions about products, and there you go. Pepsi's trying to step on a keyboard. She's gonna end up canceling the live stream or something. Wizard Core says, Greg, tell us a joke, please. Here's one. The i3 7350K. That's my joke. Okay, I'm moving on. Trucker Bomb says, I hate super thin bezels on phones. Negatively impacts durability, and that's more important than looks, in my opinion. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that to an extent. I think that phones with thick bezels, though, look absolutely horrid. So from an aesthetic standpoint, I think it's a huge trade-off. But if you're dropping your phone, like if that's your biggest concern is dropping your phone, then you should put a big old fat case on it, at which point you're going to have thick bezels anyway. So I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22. Okay, we'll do a couple more. 2 more questions. Floyd, Tennessee says, "Hey Greg, I'm upgrading to the Ryzen 5 1600 and GTX 1066 gig from an i3 and RX 460. It's a good upgrade. And I have a VS 450 watt system from Corsair, so do I have to upgrade the PSU too?" I would say at first glance, no. You shouldn't have to. You should stay within 450 easy. Even when overclock, if you overclock both of your units, you'd still be within the 450 reach. You might not be in the most peak, like the peak part of your curve. You might be around 250, 300 watts. That might still be in your curve. I don't know. But 450 is plenty. A lot of people think 450 is too short, it's not enough. 450 is plenty for especially that config there. Okay, scrolling down. Let's give me one more question, folks. I need a good question. Give me something good. Give me the juicy stuff. Wizard says, "Greg, rate yourself from 1 to 10. On what? And which one's better, 1 or 10? You guys are good. What do you think of the gamer look? What do you mean gamer look? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about like there. Let's see. Can you say something against About microphones? I don't know what that. I've never even heard of that brand. Thoughts on Mexico? It's actually a pretty beautiful country. Places that I know, there are some parts of Mexico that aren't very pretty. There are parts of the U.S. that aren't very pretty either. But when you know where to go in Mexico, it's a very beautiful country. NVIDIA without G-Sync, or should I go red? I use NVIDIA without G-Sync all the time. I like NVIDIA software a bit better, but AMD might be the better value. So if you care more about value in that sense, then I think AMD makes more sense, right? 1080 versus 1060 versus 580, right? Especially when you go 8 gig versus 6 gig. 1060s are still $300, $350 in some cases. 580s, 8 gig cards are going for $250. So, in the States anyway. So in that case, I would go with a 580 any day of the week. Even though I like NVIDIA software a bit more, the 580 is a way better deal at that point. All right, one question. Here we go. One more question. Okay. I see Tommy Mai's question. Ultra wide monitor. I would go 3440. With the 1080 Ti, 3440 makes more sense. I mean, they're both large differences from 60, but 144 hertz is a much bigger difference. Give me the good stuff, folks. I need one last question here. Good question. Here we go. Need something good. Potatogenic, I'll answer that. Where do you want your channel to be in 1 year? I want to be at least 500K. Like I've been like trying to break this, like get out of this 300K sub place. And YouTube is just like, we were doing super well, and then your videos stop getting recommended. People don't get your notifications. The channel slows down. It's really tough. You just got to churn through it. We're doing fine. Financially, we're doing okay. But the channel growth has definitely slowed down. So trying to get to 500K is going to be tough next year, but that's where I want to be. That's my goal. And Cliff Weathers, I talked about Fortnite already, and earlier in the live stream, you can scroll back. I hate Fortnite. I think it's trash. I think it looks trash. And okay, one more. I know I keep saying one more. Here we go. Let's see. Is Threadripper overkill? For most people, John, it is overkill. Yes. Okay. Here we go. What do you think about Logan Paul? I don't watch any of his content. I've never even heard of him until that Tokyo or the Suicide Forest scandal. So if that tells you anything, there you go. All right, folks. One more RAM prices going down. Matthew, RAM prices in the States are already coming down, so just give it time. I mean, they're not going to totally level off within the next 6 months, I don't think, but they're going to continue to gradually work their way down. So anyway, we're going to do one last thing here. One last thing is everyone comment with their favorite emoji. We do this after every live stream. We're just going to spam the text, the chat box here, the little chat window. You guys are all going to see it on the live stream. Even if you're on a phone, find a way to get into the chat box and send me your favorite emoji starting right now. Spam it, and we're going to end the live stream when I'm satisfied. And I say when I'm satisfied. So I want to see some good stuff in there, all right? Give me the good emojis, and I'll call you out. I'll give you the shout out, whatever I can do. And we'll see if I can get there. Oh, I see it. Ooh, that one's good. I see a bunch of them. Woo! YouTube blocked that one because there were so many emojis in it, but I'm unblocking it because I'm a boss. Look at there. What's up, Pax Bros? I see you, Wes. Yogender. How do you say that? An interesting name. Inferno. Scavifero. I see Alex David. I see Trucker Bomb. Is that a peanut Trucker Bomb? Matthias. I see you. Matt, I see you. John White, Wizard, I see you. Floyd, Tennessee. Kofasa. We are Seekers. What's going on, folks? I see Raj. I see Double A Uploads. Chris Arch. Ashley Martinez. Rory Feeney. I see you, Pro Gamer. I see Cliff Weathers. I see No 3. I see two. There's too many here. There are many. Downsy, I see you. Lit Reviews, I see you. Kryptonic, what's going on, my dude? Kryptonic's our moderator in tonight's chat. Thank you for the work. Brandon Bryant. Pieter G. I don't know how to say that name. Anthony G. What's going on? Turskip. I see all the good stuff. We're getting blasted. Fighter Luke, what's going on? What's going on, Jeffy? Shiro, these names are beyond me. Apocalypse Ready. I see Vladis. All right, I am satisfied. Stupolo, I see you. Raul Alba, I see you. And Pax Bros again. Trucker Bomb again with the batteries. Trucker Bomb's getting there. He's getting to that green battery. One Cap Fear. I see what Yummy's doing. I see you, Yummy Bento. I see what you're trying to imply. All the good stuff. Lit Reviews, what's going on? And I'm satisfied. We're going to call it. Thank you guys for checking out the live stream. Thank you for contributing with all of your beautiful emojis and your beautiful questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. Come back next week. We might be doing this again tomorrow. This is kind of off the cuff, but I should be doing it on Sunday nights. I thought it was Sunday night. I'm totally just out of it right now. So maybe I'll bend some tubes in the custom loop I'm working on, and it'll be my therapy for the night. Thank you guys for watching. I will catch you again in the next one. Again, either tomorrow or next Sunday night, 9 p.m. at Central Standard Time. This is After Hours number 18. I'm signing off in 3, 2, 1.